Good evening, and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 47.
Woo!
The gang's all here. Well, three quarters of the gang's all here. The ones that are here will be flying cars, crashing crypto, and ditching rockets on the moon. Also, two kinds of fake Pokemon. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm William Silver.
And I'm Gray Williams, and we are somewhat on time. I think we're kind of on time. As much as one can be in the pandemic.
Keep telling yourself that. We have a pre-show for a reason. Anyway, moving right along, you can follow us at momentus.tv, twitter.com/momentus.tv, facebook.com/momentus.tv, instagram.com/momentus.tv, and on YouTube. Search my name and look for the Momentous playlists there. How y'all doing? Gray, how was your week?
Not too bad. Back in the office after a little bit of time off, and doing a lot of metaverse stuff, which is kind of neat.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to learning more about some of your top secret projects, if not this week. Maybe another time, sometime soon. You've been teasing us for ages. How about you, Will?
Beats, and more beats. Yeah, that's pretty much most of it. We'll talk about it later, but I got some new tech in the house and a few other little gadgets. So yeah, it's always fun to have toys. So.
Well, that's, if nothing else, the pandemic has encouraged us to focus on gear.
Yeah, yes. I actually bought a second Apple Pencil because I had lost mine and found it this afternoon before the second one arrived. So, dueling pencils, I guess.
All right, let's get into it, shall we? Let's see if we can get this under an hour. Even it seems like, oh yeah, with fewer people, we can get through quicker. But what happens with fewer people, we just end up talking more. So,
blah, blah, blah.
I've trimmed out a number of stories, and there's still lots here. But first, we have not one, not two, but three quick follows up. Governors General? Follow up. So I mistakenly, as I often do, teased that we would be talking about Samsung Unpacked today. For some reason, I had it in my head that it was going to be today. It's not until February 9th. So y'all got to wait a couple weeks, all you Samsung and Android fans out there, for all the Samsung goodness that we will be covering day of. That will be Tuesday, February 9th. And, we don't generally cover rumors too much here, but there's talk about a Samsung Galaxy Ultra 22 or 22 Ultra, something like that, which might be a Note style phone. We didn't see a Note in the Galaxy 21 generation. People thought maybe the Note was going away forever. So let's see what this, if the Ultra is in a Note form factor or not. And then there'll be all sorts of other Samsung goodness. And, their keynotes are always very Samsung. Let's just put it that way.
Stimulating.
I mean, a big claim to fame here is apparently AMD graphics in one of the new devices, which whether or not it's going to be good for mining cryptocurrency, anyone's guess, I guess. But that's the only reason you really want AMD in the phone, I guess.
Maybe. More follow-up. So yeah, come back February 9th. So last week we talked about Wordle. You may have noticed on your social media feeds, various friends posting mysterious squares and scores and things like that. And we talked about Wordle last week. And Letteral, which is the even stupider version of Wordle, where you just have to guess a single letter. More of a joke than anything. But, it's good, clean internet fun. It harkens back to a simpler time. Well, if Wordle, one of the things with Wordle is that it only gives you one puzzle per day. And that's actually kind of nice. You don't end up going into that infinity pool of gaming and screen time and all that sort of stuff. So just one a day, and then you have to wait until midnight. Some people stay up midnight just to get their next Wordle. But now we have Absurdle. Discovered this just after our show last week. So it's basically like Wordle, but harder. And it's adversarial in nature. Let's put it that way. So when you start to guess letters to try to guess the word, it will continuously change the word. So let's just put it that. So you got a moving target. It will keep changing the word on you based on the letters that you've guessed so far. So basically saying, oh, what other words could we make with all the remaining letters? So if you were concerned that Wordle wasn't taking up quite enough of your time, go and check out Absurdle.
Yeah,
and it can take up even more.
I picked the word purge as in I'm purging Wordle and Absurdle and Queerdle and all the other ones from my life.
Oh, come on.
Purge.
There's more to life than destiny, Gray.
Is there, though?
Okay, so let's see. Let's try the word quail. Oh, we got nothing. Great. So, well, that limits things for us. How about
Rents. Go with rents.
Rents?
Yep.
Oh, there's two. We're not going to do this whole thing live because we'll be here all day. But we know that R and E will be somewhere in here. But anyhow, just give it a go. Absurdle. Next bit of follow-up. So we're going to slam through these guys. This is... Whoops. Oh, no. We're back to gray territory here. Yeah, we're going to see if we can make a record for a number of times we mentioned the James Webb Space Telescope. This is going to be it for a little while until we start.
That means you take a shot.
Exactly. But the most recent update is yesterday. It arrived at its new home in space. So that's almost 1 million miles. It's 1.5 million kilometers away. Graham has mentioned the Lagrange point a couple of times. Gray, do you want to refresh us on what this means now? Where is the James Webb, and what is it going to start doing, and how long is it going to take before we start seeing some action from it?
Yes. So, I mean, essentially, like where it is orbiting around this point out in space, Lagrange point, which basically gives it a spot to orbit around where there is no celestial body. Essentially, it's basically using that point as an axis to orbit around. What we're looking at here is the same type of imagery that we were getting from the Hubble Space Telescope, just in far greater definition. We're going to be basically looking farther and deeper into space, and also, as such, as mentioned in the last episode, further back in time. So we're going to be, taking a look at things that have already passed, but getting a better idea of how our universe has developed. When we're looking at getting our first images, there's probably a couple more weeks of calibrations that need to happen. But I can imagine that we're looking at, I think it's probably within the next 3 or 4 months, I believe. So don't have that right offhand, but.
Well, I remember how stunning some of the images from the Hubble was once they finally got it focused. I think they had to do at least one repair mission to get it going properly. But if
Rocket
this one,
surgery.
exactly,
Literally.
So if this one is working out of the gate, we can only imagine the kind of imagery we'll get out of this. It'll be another, order of magnitude in hopefully greater detail, resolution, and so on.
Fueling the desktop screenshots of a generation to come.
That's right. We need our 6K high-res space shots for those with the...
For your brand new Samsung S22.
I was going to say, your old Apple XDR monitor that cost you $5,000 US plus $1,000 for the stand to go with your Mac Pro that had $500 wheels.
Rumor has it that we're going to see a more consumer-oriented entry this year in the XDR range.
We broke our promise to avoid talking about Apple this week. Our unspoken
I had 2
promise.
delicious apples for lunch.
All right. Well, speaking of space, that's it for follow-up. But speaking of space, after 7 years, a spent Falcon 9 rocket stage is on course to hit the moon. So this, of course, is one of the remnant from one of the SpaceX rockets that lifted off on February 11th, 2015. It's hard to believe that SpaceX has been going that long, but in partnership with NASA, they've been doing all sorts of great stuff with their reusable rockets and whatnot. So in this case, the second stage was high enough that it did not have enough fuel to return to Earth's atmosphere, and it also lacked the energy to escape the gravity of the Earth-Moon system. So it has been following a somewhat chaotic orbit since 2015. So, some people have likened this to the 3-body problem, whereby you've got 3, motion objects in motion, and it's much more complicated than simply 2 objects in motion, how they interact with one another. We've got the Earth, we've got the moon, and then we've got this big hunk of rocket stage, floating around as well. What's going to happen to this, Gray?
Well, just Big Hunk Rocket Stairs is actually the name of my punk band in high school, so that's great. So essentially, like it's going to collide, and it's not going to slow down. There's not much in the way of atmosphere on the moon, and I mean gravity is lower. It's 1/6 of Earth gravity, but it's moving pretty damn fast. Do you want the crazy conspiracy minded moment here? You've heard me talk before about how Mr. Musk has all of these companies that have aligned in a way that actually befits space exploration and colonization. And I said before, when you're looking at SpaceX, you're looking at the Boring Company, you're looking at Solar City and Tesla and the automation therein. I said at the time, the way that you get things onto these planets is you crash into them. You don't even need to slow down. And I think there's going to be a ton of data that's going to be gathered from this for doing exactly that. Essentially, this thing is a ballistic missile that is about to drop a payload on the moon. And I think the data that is going to be gathered from this impact actually should be quite informative for that type of mission, where you're basically going to take some machinery that is going to be, I think, hardened against an impact to drop a boring machine either onto the moon or onto Mars to get started with Elon's city off of this planet.
But it's made out of aluminum. How is that going to work?
Because it's a crumple zone.
What a giant crumple zone. So this thing is about 4 metric tons because it's empty now, no more fuel in there. And they say it should impact the moon at a velocity of about 2.58 kilometers per second. So I wonder what kind of crater that might leave on the moon when it finally hits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, the moon's basically acted like a bulletproof vest for the Earth, since it basically broke off from us after an impact. And so, it is pockmarked with this all over the actual celestial body, one side more than the other. And so it's going to be interesting, again, to see, like, regolith that gets tossed up. The moon's actually a very interesting piece of kit there because it's full of rock that it's got helium-3 in it, which what we're looking at right now for fusion is actually an ideal fuel. So, like I said, there's, as a happy little accident, as Bob Ross would say, this is going to paint the lunar atmosphere such that it is with a ton of information, because we're going to be able to take a look at that dust plume, we're going to be able to take a look at that crater and just see, when we put things down on the moon before, we put them down carefully. Right? And with good reason. We're looking to protect equipment. There's no such possibility here, and there's really no need. So this is sort of I'd say a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see what happens when things go drastically awry without actually causing any real damage. And to the moon people that are receiving this transmission right now, I'm so sorry we didn't know you were there.
Well, speaking of moon people, that actually feeds into some of the other conspiracy theories that are flying around right now, like that. What is actually going on? Because is this being done on purpose? Hopefully it doesn't crash into any other secret operations they have on the moon. Is this actually going to hit the moon and keep drilling? Is it like part of the Boring project? Are we going to end up with Tesla's driving underneath Las Vegas Lunar Edition?
Yeah.
There's a callback for all those who are watching every episode of Momentous Live. Speaking of going to the moon, or actually speaking of crashing, how about crypto this past week?
What a great buying opportunity.
Exactly. So crypto is not just Bitcoin, of course. Crypto is also Ether on the Ethereum network and all sorts of other assets, many of which just seem to be correlated with one another. And contrary to what a lot of people have been hoping in the past, kind of correlated to the stock market too, especially as we get more institutional players moving assets or value in and out of crypto markets. So, yeah, and not to mention all of those people who have bought crypto assets while highly leveraged. And then when you see a drop of a certain amount, all these people get liquidated and you get this kind of domino effect. So just tumble. We got down to, I believe, 35K US for Bitcoin over the weekend. We'll just do a real-time check right now to see what we're at here. But Gray, is this the dip we should be buying, or what? It's tough. They say it's tough to catch a falling knife. We're at $37,000 right now, by the way, US dollars.
We were down to 31, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
We're not. Yeah. So
it got down that far. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is actually, I mean, it's interesting to see because we saw a lot of people sort of, we're in crypto winter. This is crypto winter, and it's already started to bounce back. It's been an interesting couple of days because for anyone in proof of stake networks, in a lot of cases, when you are staking different tokens, those have unbonding periods, and those unbonding periods can be anywhere from 5 days, 7 days, 21 days in the case of Luna, which I have a good chunk of a stake in, if you'll pardon the pun. And so with all of those, you see the market start to slip, and there are a couple of things. One, if you're not leveraged, which that's not something I don't, work with margin trading. I'm not leveraging anything to go and use my assets as collateral, then be able to borrow against them. That's not something that I'm comfortable doing. And I think with good reason, because I've seen this happen a couple of times, and it's just, there are now insurance services and smart contracts where you can have your loans repaid. And sure, there's tons of money to be made in leveraging your assets and then going and reinvesting them. But just didn't feel like a game of Russian roulette that I wanted to play. And we've actually seen some interesting things happen with leverage, with different platforms. Anchor Protocol allows you, this is on the Terra Luna network, allows you to put up your Luna as collateral and then borrow against it. And if your loan to value exceeds 50%, you can be liquidated. And we actually saw earlier, probably a couple months ago, one of the Oracle prices, which is basically just an indicator to the network of what something is trading at, was off by $10. It was $10 lower than it should have been. And so people got liquidated pretty damn quick because they weren't anticipating a $10 drop in a time when it just didn't feel like that was going to happen. And so, on that network now, it's a distributed autonomous organization. So they put a vote to everyone who has a governance token staked, should we repay these people? I wasn't affected by it, but I said yes. We should actually use a community chest to do that because that's not fair to them. But looking at the situation in the last week, we've actually been through 3 or 4 of these in the last year, where on a Friday afternoon there's blood on the dance floor, and it's rough for folks, I think, who are over leveraged or who perhaps have stepped into certain tokens that may not have the fundamentals that they hoped that they did. Looking back at Luna dropped from, I believe it was $74 down to as low as 52. It's back up to 61 right now, US, which is, considering this time last year, I think it was somewhere around $20, nowhere near where Bitcoin or Ethereum have got to. But there are some tokens that are faring well, and there's some tokens that are not. This isn't crypto winter. And I know a lot of folks were kind of, I don't know, it seems like there's some schadenfreude that people are really hoping that crypto doesn't do well. I think maybe because they have decided that it's a Ponzi scheme or any number of other things. And don't get me wrong, there are tokens out there that I look at and I'm like, that looks pyramidish. But in a lot of cases, you got a lot of really smart people who are working on smart contracts that are to the benefit of everyone involved in them. And in a lot of cases, those tokens are actually, they're doing okay.
Yeah, we had a crypto winter back in 2018 when late 2017, 2018, Bitcoin hit 20K US and then rapidly declined over the course of months as low, it got under $5,000 US and stayed there for months and months.
Over 1,000 days it took to recover back to its all-time high.
And then, it got up, it blew past 20, blew past 30 and got as high as $69,000 US the last spring. So one of the things, though, when people buy the dip, and whether it's 31 as low as it got or 34 now, to expect that it's necessarily going to go straight up again is not necessarily realistic. It could be a while. It could hang out below 40K for quite a while. So, so people just have to bear in mind that a lot of this is speculative. It's still very early, and I've had more. At least one person say to me, "Oh yeah, I was waiting for this dip, and I was going to buy now." It's like, okay. If people, you can do so, now it's a low, but there's nothing to say that it won't go down to 20. You never know. So if you are, if you want to manage your risk, you could do like a certain conservative amount once a month, once a week, what have you, and you get you dollar cost average just people would in traditional financial instruments, and then you're getting some when it's really cheap, you're getting some when it's a bit more expensive, and then you're not missing out as it continues to climb. You're not going to see as huge returns that way, but you're not going to get washed out either. And again, with any of these things, they're highly speculative. Maybe 1% of your total portfolio, and don't invest more than you're willing to lose. That's what I keep telling people, because
like
people get really
10,000?
excited.
It was
Say again?
like 10,000 like 2 years ago or something like that. Like it's gone up tremendously in the last 2 years.
Yeah. So, Will, I guess the question to you is that I think you're still the crypto virgin among us. How tempted are you by this current dip with all the blood on the dance floor, as Graham says? Which Google that, by the way, blood on the dance floor band. Terrible band with great costumes. Look them up. So, Will, is this your time? Do we need to be having a little crypto
I
chat?
don't think so. I mean, I wasn't waiting for this. I mean, I have been crypto curious for a while. This is not sparking me to go in particular, but I mean, in general.
Now, if you weren't married, would you?
But I mean, in general, I have some stocks and some investments, traditional, and have invested in various things over the years. And
at least they've all taken a crap in the last week as well.
Yeah. Well, we all know, though, in general, it's better to buy low and sell high. So when something is dipping a little bit, then it's better to buy in. And when you have something like stocks or bonds or crypto, if it goes down a little bit, you either hold on and reinvest or just hold on, because it's like with real estate. Oh, my house went down 10,000. Well, did you sell it? Did you lose that money? You haven't lost it yet. So like the value has gone down, but just wait it out. Like, I mean, some of my past investments have gone down a bunch, and then I've just held on to them. And if you're in it over the course of a few years, all my investments have made their money back. So it's just one of those things. I mean, the Vancouver real estate market, people have been predicting the fall of that since I first bought an apartment, 15 years ago. So, it's done nothing but go up. So, you never know.
Well, we managed to lose money on real estate in the early 2000s, so attend my workshop on how to do just that.
The value of my place has actually gone down 10% in the last couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah, in Vancouver.
We had a dip a couple of years ago, then last year recovered a bit, and then things were up a fair bit this year. It really depends where in the city, the type of building it is.
How many murders have happened up front?
Yeah, it happens.
So the one thing that I was going to say, though, is when you take a look at traditional finance, you're looking to hold on to a stock. Hopefully you get paid a dividend. But in a lot of cases, decentralized finance right now, you're looking at getting yields or returns that are compounding day over day or week over week. And so in a lot of cases, if you're holding, and again, you're not selling, you're actually seeing the value of your investment increase, even if the price of the token isn't increasing itself. And in some cases, these APYs
by staking and using instruments like that, bearing in mind there is risk associated with that, but you can see outsized yields for sure.
Yeah, and so like liquidity provision is basically where you pair two tokens together, and you can have something called impermanent loss, where one token exceeds the other in value, which if you're pairing with a stable coin can happen by quite a bit. And the impermanent loss only becomes permanent when you actually pull it out of liquidity provision. But typically the rewards for liquidity provision, so liquidity to the networks that people can transact on it, the rewards are meant to offset that, so that they can be 2 and 3 figures in APYs. And so if you're doubling or tripling your money in a year, or your investment in a token in a year because of that, you can see how people can actually be compelled really to hold on to this stuff for quite some time, as well as having the ethos of, I want this network to continue, so I'm going to provide that liquidity to the network so that it will run smoothly. And so for a lot of us, like in the last week, there was much gnashing of teeth and rending of clothing, but for many, we just kind of looked at it and went, cool.
Crypto goes up, crypto goes down.
Right.
And
you can't explain that.
Exactly. And Will, to your point, sure, we all want to buy, buy low, sell high. I always got to remember, it's not the opposite. That's how you lose. So you want to buy low, sell high, but as history has demonstrated, most people are not good at timing the market, even professional fund managers. Straight up, when you talk about the stock market, straight up index fund ETFs outperform 80% of mutual funds. So even when it comes to crypto, it can be equally fraught as well. So my advice to most folks out there is that if this is a space you're interested in, decide for yourself how much you're willing to put in and set up a sort of routine where you put in some on a regular basis, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, or whatever. Sure. Keep it modest, and you get a bit of exposure to that. And then with some, depending on which assets you acquire, be they Bitcoin, Ether, or some of the more exotic ones out there, if you're tolerant of a little bit more risk, I mean, those two are probably some of the least risky out there, aside from stable coins, which are generally tied to, say, the US dollar. But there are instruments out there, some of which are available on DeFi platforms and even some large exchanges like Binance, where, like Gray said, you can, if you're able to weather the ups and downs of whichever token you're holding or coin you're holding, you'll get yield regardless. So, say you've invested in DAI, or or it could be Luna, or it could be Solana or Matic or whatever, which is now Polygon. There are ways to provide liquidity, as Graham said. Put these, stake these coins, and there's two different. There's the kind that Gray's mentioned, pairing the two coins together, and then there's all which can provide even outsized returns. There's a different kind of staking, which is simply the one token, the one asset, and you don't have to pair it with anything. You get lower returns, but I've seen anywhere from 2% annual yield up to 20% on stuff like that. Again, riskier than just hanging on to the asset, but the cool thing is you're making money on it day in, day out, whether or not the asset goes up or down. So,
Anchor Protocol,
a whole different world there.
Anchor Protocol, the one that I mentioned earlier, it does basically have staking of UST as a savings account, which is currently at 19.45%. You don't have to worry about it going up or down. You just put something in, $1 worth of dollar, and $10,000 at the end of the year is worth $12,000.
And given, and Will, this is where it's really important for you and your investments, given that inflation is supposedly up to 6% right now. So, there's been even higher. They're saying the actual real inflation is higher than it's been since 1972, which means we're actually losing money every week, every month, in this environment. It might be the time to start to look at investments that could try to outperform that. So we're to protect some of our assets. But anyway, that's enough of Momentous Crypto Shilling for this week.
You'll find our crypto.com and ShakePay links in the show notes.
Exactly. So in a year or two, when we're all crypto rich, and we'll get you there eventually, Will. But Will, when you become crypto rich, how would you like to buy a flying car?
Oh man, that first one, that Jetson 1 or whatever, I'm all over that.
Well, we've got a few to look at. We've talked about various flavors of flying cars in the past here on Momentous Live, and some are they have different approaches. Some of them are straight up VTOLs, vertical takeoff and landing. Some are eVTOLs, which are electric powered vertical takeoff and landing craft, and some are hybrid car/planes, and the like. Then not even to mention the rocket packs that we've been promised for the last 50 years. But we're just going to have a quick little survey of some of these that have there's been news on each of these in the last week or so. So we got the Jetson one. Here's a clickbaity headline here talking about the forest moon of Endor. You got to get people with a Return of the Jedi reference, get people on board. Basically, because there's a photo here. There was one clip of them flying this unit through a forest, but the main video, and there's still some question of whether it looks. Some of the shots look suspiciously
too good to be true.
Yeah, CG type things, and of course now it's not going to play, so we'll just do a little refresh here. But so we've got basically a quadcopter type arrangement. Like, these shots look good when it's the first person view. Some of these others, it's hard to say. But anyhow, if it's not real, it'll come out eventually. Now, one of the concerns I've read with that particular configuration or form factor of personal flying vehicle is the exposed rotors. You'll see with certain the early quadcopters and drones for the consumer market, they were often shielded even by a ring. Some people have suggested that, and here in the video for those watching, it's showing some of the early prototypes as well. Some have suggested that perhaps a cage, like a mesh cage around them, which would affect the aerodynamics and the lift a bit, but would prevent the catastrophic collisions, say with branches, if you're going through wooded areas, or strikes with birds. We know how that can be. Those can be on jet engines, for example, and certain crafts do have meshes to prevent that, but it does impede the performance of that. So this is one form factor we've got, the Jetson one. Another that we're looking at, and these are all in the news. We'll have links in the show notes for these. There is this guy, which is more of a, this is from Bellwether Technologies. And this is only a animation in this one video, just showing, it looks kind of a bit more. Oh, this is a real clip here. Looks like they're still in testing. It only got about 15 feet off of the ground, but looks pretty spaceshipy and kind of cool. Goes up to 25 miles an hour. So that was one. And then there's one called the Air Car. Now, this is a little confusing because there's two different VTOLs out there called Air Car. One is at aircar.aero, and it looks like this. One of the slickest devices, almost like a squished in Tesla with the quadcopter arrangement, the 4 sets of rotors, the 4 sets of dual rotors. Pretty slick looking device. Not a lot of real world footage of this yet. Lots of concept drawings and whatnot. But the other Air Car that was actually in the news and has been certified to fly in the EU, it's from a Slovakian company called, the name is escaping me off at the moment. I've got in this other link. Oops, nope, that's the wrong thing. Well, we'll play the video and just look how badass this one is. And for some reason, these aren't.
I think it's just called the Air Car.
Yeah, the company name. So that's to be careful. You got to be careful when you're Googling it, because you don't want to end up with the wrong Air Car. So this one is. We'll find it after. I'll just show a little bit of the clip here. So they got certificate of airworthiness by the Slovak Transport Authority. And this is a full-on car, pretty slick-looking car, that it needs about 2.5 minutes to convert. The wings fold out, and then you can fly it around. So this isn't doing the quadcopter approach. This is more fixed wing with a rear-mounted prop on here. They've had over 70 hours of flight time so far, 200 takeoffs and landings. And this is gasoline powered. And it flew from one airport to another. So it's not like you can just take off or land from your highway, although that would be the dream. Way to freak out your fellow motorists. But,
traffic is for suckers. I'm out of here.
Yeah. But just
to get this sucker to 88.
So, Will, let's start with you. Of these different concepts we're looking at, some more real than others, and which one speaks most to you?
I mean, the Jetson looks pretty fun, but you make a good point about the rotors. I think also it does sort of look like you're jumping in a cage. There's not a lot around you in terms of it being a car. It's more like a sports car. It doesn't seem all that comfortable, but it does seem kind of cool. Especially with the clickbaity going through the forest moon of Endor, it does seem sort of like you'd have a great.
I know their target market.
Yeah. Plus it's called the Jetson, but
exactly.
But I think that other one that looks pretty slick, where it just got a few feet off the ground. That one was pretty cool looking as well. The Air Car looks a little bit boring, but if it works, that's the important thing.
It won't trim your hedges like some of these other ones will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the second air car, the one that is actually looks more like a car and is convertible, is made by a company called Klein Vision, Klei, and Klein Vision, and they're based in Slovakia. Whereas the air car Dot Aero is it looks like it might be Turkey based.
Mm.
Not to be confused with Turkey Baster. How about you, Gray? Which of these designs are you most tempted to be spending your future crypto earnings on?
To be honest, Aircar.Aero really looks like the one that I would buy. What I'd really love to see, though, is actually like a Delta Wing enclosed set for the rotors, because that would actually give you a little bit of protection around them. And then actually seeing the same sort of rear mounted prop on the back of this air car here to actually give you forward thrust. It's been interesting, like looking at these systems as well. We were talking about the one vehicle just getting 15 feet off the ground. You don't need to get up to aircraft cruising height for these things to be effective. You just need to get over traffic, right? And really like looking at that, I'd like to actually be in a space that maybe there is a stratification where we have, higher speed, lower altitude vehicles that are not in the way of traditional air traffic to get from place to place. And to be honest, I would be happy to not have any actual controls in these things at some point, and just say, set my destination. This is where I've got to get to, and this is point A to point B. Maybe you got public transit from the place after that, but I don't need to be driving this. I mean,
and that's what Aircar.Aero is promising. That is the one of the four here that is promising to be autonomous. So,
I love
as such,
I don't want to fly it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that is by definition going to push this further into the future. Let's put it that way.
Well, yes and no, because like when we're looking at the way that autonomous drones move right now, and especially if these are pre-programmed flight paths, right? When you're taking a look at them, the sensors that are in them, you've got LiDAR, you've got radar, you've got cameras. If there is an emergency, especially if we are a little bit lower to the ground, it's probably not going to be doing the speeds that traditional aircraft do. So it might take you, from here to Victoria, it's going to be 45 minutes instead of half an hour. But it's still going to be a hell of a lot faster than driving, right? And so even at those speeds, though, if you need to ditch, it's relatively easy to do, I'd think. So,
well, I guess one of the other considerations is, will these various designs have sort of emergency airbag type things that can deploy? The kind that were used for landing rovers on Mars 15 years ago in one of the approaches that was taken there.
The spray foam from Demolition Man.
Yes.
That's where I like to see this go.
So I guess the difference between this sort of thing and regular autonomous drones, the kind we see doing or replacing fireworks shows and whatnot, the coordinated approaches, is those drones aren't filled with bags of meat. So if they crash, it's going to be a little messier.
First step, we just equip all of the drones that are doing fireworks with hot dogs.
Yeah, you got to learn somehow. Right? Now, the Klein Vision air car is the only one of the four that actually serves as a car, that you can drive on the road as well. So that's one thing that differentiates. So it's really exciting to see so much activity in this space. We have, I think, Uber. We in the past we've talked about Uber looking to have a Uber Air in New York City. What the final choice they'll have for the design, I think, still remains to be seen. But watch this space, so to speak, or watch the skies, because it could start looking different, in the next, say, 5 to 10 years. Now, the Klein Vision air car requires a pilot's license. Of course, an autonomous one, the Aircar.Aero, if it's autonomous, then no license required because no one's driving except the computers, right? And then the other ones, I think, remains to be seen. It might be the equivalent of riding an e-bike versus a car, and so the Moon of Endor type of one that we're seeing there versus the full-on Klein Vision air car. So lots of variety, lots of different approaches, and really exciting. I'm sure lots of venture capital money going into this. High risk, but potentially high reward. Again, if they can get through all the regulations that are bound to be enforced, with all the aviation authorities probably pooping their pants over these kinds of things on the horizon. So we'll put those on our wish lists, and we'll hold on for dear life. We'll hodl onto our crypto holdings. That word that started as a typo, someone tried to type in hold, and they typed HODL, and it became a meme in the crypto world. HODL, HODL. Well, just hang on for dear life with those crypto holdings, and 2, 5, 10 years from now, there'll be air cars for everyone.
Whoop whoop.
In the meantime, we'll have to amuse ourselves with some gaming, perhaps some faux Pokemon gaming. There's the Pokemon satire Pal World serves cute creatures for dinner. So just imagine you're playing, some sort of Pokemon game, but imagine that you could actually just member them and eat them. That adds a whole new level of appeal, doesn't it?
Yep. Yeah, it does.
So, Will, is this Gray? Is this close enough to Destiny to get you interested?
Oh yeah, just right adjacent. Absolutely. What? No.
But look at all these pals, these cute little pals, and look, you can get them to water your gardens for them. No, you're not buying it. Well,
and here's the thing. Like, I mean, you played Pokemon Go, and we played
just a little, yeah,
just a little, and it's interesting, and the collectability is sort of a fascinating thing. Actually, like seeing all of these new NFT projects pop up, where people are literally just taking pieces of an image and having it randomized, and have the catch 'em all mentality it runs deep with people, and the idea that you might find something that is incredibly valuable, I think, is there as well. This looks like a cross between like Final Fantasy, Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey, and I guess Half-Life almost. Like it's got just such a bizarre aesthetic, and good for them for coming up with this. Because if you're going to knock something off, knock everything off, including the actual characters. So yeah.
How about you, Will? I'm not sure how much gaming are you doing lately, and is this the kind of thing that's lighthearted enough that might suck you in?
Well, I play a lot of Marvel Strike Force, another sort of. I play a couple of retro games on the Xbox, but no, I've never been a big Pokemon person. I think I just slightly missed the boat on the Pokemons. Yeah, age-wise, I just wasn't ever into it. It's funny because I know a ton of people who are, and a ton of people that got into Pokemon Go or got into card games or the various gold, blue, red, turquoise, whatever Game Boy games that came out. I just have never been a Pokemon guy.
However, you seem to stumble across YouTube videos that with the latest in Pokemon news. Speaking of fake Pokemon, it's not just for video games anymore. What's this story all about?
So I thought this was kind of interesting, especially talking about crypto a little earlier, because trading cards, sports cards, Pokemon cards, and it ties into part of that collecting, as Gray was talking, with crypto and NFTs, has been really, I think, a big thing in the last year or so. Jake Paul, who I'm not a big fan of, but he has been...
YouTube influencer Jake Paul.
YouTube influencer has been notable about buying a lot of very expensive Pokemon's cards. He spent $1 million on an unopened first edition box. He spent $200,000 on a single card, I believe. And then I guess a little while ago he spent $3.5 on a sealed case of first edition Pokemon boxes. It turns out that was fake, which also is something that people are talking about with trading cards since they've been exploding in the last year or so, that there's a lot more counterfeit cards going out there. So he spent $3.5 million on the sealed authenticated case. It was authenticated by an authentication company. They're G.I. Joe cards inside.
Oh.
Now, I looked up G.I. Joe cards, and there are some going on eBay, like a mint Snake Eyes, that can get like $1,000, or people are asking for $1,000.
If it wasn't for that movie last year, it'd probably be worth $10,000.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, I still need to watch that abomination. I'm a huge GI Joe fan, by the way. Incidentally, and that to me also just shows even GI Joe cards from 20 years ago or 15 years ago that he's seeing as worthless, you could still get a couple that are, you know, a few $100s or $1,000, especially if they're graded, which we talked about grading. I think maybe when Jamie was on a few months back, and how there's a whole run on grading of cards, meaning the evaluation, how good they are. And cards can double in value if they're graded and it's a good grade, or even go up more than double. So I mean, that's the other thing about this, is that it was authenticated by a authentication company who thought that it was a real sealed box, and of course they didn't open it because part of the appeal was that it was sealed. So
They got to get them some of those airport scanners or something.
yeah. So, well, it had gone through an airport, it had gone through a scanner, and they saw that there were cards inside. They just didn't know what cards they were. They were GI Joe cards. So yeah, that's and this is the authenticator talking about why he authenticated it. So yeah, so 3.5 million, and it's not worth all that much.
This seems like the ideal thing that you put in escrow, right? Like, you know, and there's got to be some sort of blowback for the person who sold him this. So I'm looking at this, you know, watching this YouTube video. I'm like, how many views? Because like Jake Paul and Logan Paul, they are eminently hateable.
Yes,
like just they're detestable human beings. At least the characters that they play on YouTube are. And so seeing them get their comeuppance is delightful. And they're like shot in front of a word of the day. It's just like, ta. This is all. There's
a wrestling saying, and they basically are wrestling villains.
Yes.
And the wrestling expression is a boo is as good as a cheer.
Yes.
Meaning that as long as they're paying attention to me, and if they're booing me, I'm getting a reaction, which means that people are watching me or people are paying attention to me. And on YouTube, it's definitely true. If you can get people to hate watch you, then that's almost as good as like watching you. So
totally, when you're making half a cent a view, like that can add up pretty quickly when you've got the kind of the number of subscribers they have, and then the additional reach provided by the algorithms, because there's so much engagement happening, even to people leaving comments like talking about how stupid they are and how much they hate them. Well, that just drives the algorithm and puts those videos as suggested in front of other people. So they're laughing all the way to the bank.
So correct me if I'm wrong, though. The term in wrestling for something that you portray as real, like these are true. This is kayfabe. Yeah, like
kayfabe.
This is kayfabe, and so these heels are giving us some work. They're putting work in.
Yes,
and
So even the boxes inside were Pokemon boxes, but inside of those little boxes, you said they're GI Joes.
Yes.
Wow.
It's a true Russian doll thing, because inside the doll, it's fake. Ergo Russian.
So, I mean, and part of this, too, I think it's sort of interesting to think about, like, why did this fake work? Well, first of all, it was well done. Second of all, you don't want to open it because part of the value is not opening it. And then, you know, third of all, this is just a guess of mine, and listening to this expert talk, he's not exactly a Pokemon expert. He's become an expert in Pokemon cards, but he's a sports card memorabilia guy first. So that might have also played into it as well. He hasn't seen a bunch of these things. So
are we also maybe undervaluing the GI Joe cards? Like, they had a lot of really valuable lessons at the end of each show. I'm just saying that perhaps knowing here would have been half the battle.
Yes, exactly. But I'll also say this is interesting to me because, as you were saying, you know, when something's low is a good time to buy. Trading cards and Pokemon cards are at a record, ridiculous, absurd high. I would never buy into any of these type of items at this point because I think we're prone for a fall.
Well, my opinion of the Logan brothers is quite low, and believe me, I'm not selling that to anybody.
Buy in now. Okay. So this gave me an idea. This segment or this story gave me an idea that something that we could do in starting today as a little mini segment for Momentous Live, just to tap into the excitement of unboxing and seeing if what we order is what we get. And I actually have a couple of boxes here. I thought I would open live because I can't even remember what they are. Sometimes you order
What the
stuff.
hell did I buy?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if stuff takes a while, whether it's for personal purposes or business purposes. You know, if you're
We are living parallel lives.
and so like I get the notification from the UPS store where we have all our stuff sent to, and it's like, oh, I wonder what that could be, because when you're as old as I am too, your brain starts to fail. All right, look at okay.
What is it?
And I'm gonna make some sounds. Any ideas what this might be?
Masks?
That's right. We got some authentic, as in not ordered on Amazon, 3M N95
Wow.
masks
These are
ordered.
valuable. You could probably get a lot of Pokemon cards for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, that's a flex.
These are the 9210 plus NIOSH N95 doo-doo-doos, because Omicron's so contagious. Now, these are the kind that go behind your head, so they're a pain to wear. I also ordered a different brand that are around the ear that I didn't think N95s could be around the ear, but we'll see when those ones actually come in. So I thought for any higher risk scenarios, such as, it is with Omicron, people seem to be getting less sick, but even it's way more contagious. So once we go night clubbing, Gray, maybe we'll slap some of these guys on and see how it goes. Maybe I'll try one. I'm back to floor hockey in the last week on Thursday and last night. And this is the first time I'd ever played with a mask aside from when we had smoke in the air a few years ago. And I played with an N95 then for roller hockey outdoors. And it was really hard to breathe. So I'm going to try one of these out on Thursday and see how that goes. Because with the surgical mask, it wasn't too bad. And like everyone that we play with is triple vax at this point. But so
I ended up buying the ones. I ended up buying the ones with the dust mask that actually had the exhaust valve in it. Oh, and someone gave me a hard time about that.
Yes, because you're a bad person.
And I just said to them, "But I don't care about you."
Exactly.
Is that unclear? Maybe. And so this is my way to say, keep your distance
because of the exhaust.
Keep you 6 feet, right? I don't want what you got. I stay inside all day.
Don't you know, Gray? The mask isn't for protecting yourself; it's for protecting others.
No, that's what it was like 2 months ago. Now it's for protecting me. All these idiots out there getting Omicron.
Yeah, but it was like a year and a half ago when you were wearing the exhaust ones. Don't retcon this.
No, that was the Cambridge mask. That was the Cambridge mask. Now the Cambridge mask has a valve deactivator in it. No, I'm talking about I bought some 3M ones.
Oh, I see. I just ordered. I just opened the other box, and speak of the devil. It's the other kind of mask, and these are from DentX Canada, FNP Inc. certified Aboriginal business by the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business, made in Canada respirator masks. So these don't necessarily. They do say N95, and although they are around the ear kind. So
well, you got to fit properly, right? So.
Exactly, and the beard kind of like makes it all pointless anyhow. But yeah, so that's exciting. We have a theme in the things we opened this week. I had no idea what those would be. Right. So we should save your boxes for the next episode's Momentous Live. It's funny, as I'm talking, I'm getting so excited about getting these masks. I can see the droplets spraying out of my mouth.
It's topical.
Yeah, literally. You're going to get it on your surface. So that was this week's installment of Momentous Live Fun Boxing. Mm-hmm. So next up, another segment that we're trying to get back into is our picks of the week. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a tech gadget, recent purchase, a TV show, a YouTube channel, a podcast, a book, if you remember what those things are, a movie. Picks of the week. And I know, Will, you've got one. You made a little tech purchase. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I bought a new monitor. I've been working at home again for a little while. I was back in the office for a bit, and now I'm back at home. But it's kind of week to week. Plus, with my new laptop, I just found, my back was really hurting. I was getting sort of tingles in my fingertips because I was leaning on my elbow all the time to lean forward. Totally horrible. So I invested in this monitor. One of the things I was kind of looking for was just USB-C. And one of the reasons for that was that I have a work Mac and a home Mac, my personal Mac. And so they both have USB-C on them, and it was just an easy way of going back and forth. My monitor at work, I have to have like a whole hub, and it's HDMI into the hub, and then USB-C into the laptop. This is just plug and play. I can switch in my personal laptop and my work laptop, and it's I don't need another box on my desktop just to convert the monitor. So this sort of works for me. The only thing I'm finding so far, I'm still tweaking with it. I've just got it on the weekend on Saturday or so. Is that it does also charge through the USB-C, and I don't always want it to charge all the time if it's plugged in. So I have to maybe go in and tweak the settings and figure out how to turn that off if that's possible. But it's pretty badass. If you do want it to charge, it does charge, which is great. And it has a built-in camera. Not that I've used the camera, but it does have one. And yeah, pretty good picture, and it's just nice to have another monitor. So
it's the Dell 24-inch video conferencing monitor, and the model is
Yeah.
S2422HZ for those playing at home. Now, what were you, so you were looking for USB-C, so the function says USB-C. This
Yeah.
has the built-in video webcam, which you don't really care about so much. Why did you narrow down on this particular model?
Well, the USB-C was one thing. There's not a ton with USB-C. The other thing is it was on sale. So I think it's regularly $500. I found it at Best Buy for like $300. So that was a good determining factor. I think I wanted a 24-inch. I have a 27-inch at work that I had brought at home, and it just takes up too much space. It is good. To have, bigger is better, but it's almost too big in the space that I have it. So 24 was more that I'm looking for. So 24 USB-C sale, bing bang boom. It's in my house.
There you go. Now, are there any go-to sites for you for checking reviews and so on?
Yeah, I mean, I check all the usual review sites, Gizmodo and TechCrunch and all those things, and various other sites. I don't give much credence to the reviews on Best Buy or wherever I buy the monitor. I usually try to avoid Best Buy, if I'm being quite honest here.
Still scarred.
Still scarred. But yeah, no, I mean, they're still a reputable company and all that. So, and to be quite honest, I'd rather buy from Best Buy than I would from the Amazon. So, yeah.
And it was cheaper than you could get it from Dell.
Yes. Yeah, very
So,
much so.
one website that, if for those who are looking for, especially computer monitors, and I believe they have TVs and some other products, it's pronounced ratings.com, but it's spelled rtings.com, rtings.com. Televisions, headphones, and monitors seems to be what they specialize in at the moment. They also have sound bars, mice, keyboards, printers, vacuums, blenders. So they've been expanding, but their legacy was really TVs and monitors. So you can go and check that out, Will. And they say most people do more research after they buy something to almost to validate in their minds their purchase than they do research before they buy something. So, but for future purchases, check out rtings.com. Of course, there's always the Wirecutter, which was bought by the New York Times, and now you gotta have a New York Times account to be able to access it and so on. But we look forward to your real world usage reports of it. That looks like a nice monitor, and to get a good deal, like a $550 monitor for $300 is great. So hopefully it'll be decent quality and more ergonomic, and you won't have to lean in on your elbows to like be able to see with your old man eyes.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks for that. Now, Gray, you have a media pick this week, and it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and actually, I can only report on the first half of it because I only watched half of it last night, but I was really enjoying Encanto on Disney Plus.
Okay.
And so
this is how you know when someone's pick is a little less bad.
Well, and so we ended up watching this, and it just got a little bit late. So we said we're going to
Mhm.
finish it tonight. But it's I believe it takes place in Colombia, and it's about a young girl who's part of a family who's blessed by a miracle. And
Okay.
so everyone in the family, as long as this candle burns, it basically built a house for them, and everyone in the family has magical powers except for this young girl. And there's some talk of Bruno, who we don't talk about right at the beginning of the
Mhm.
movie, who's a brother that has disappeared, her uncle. And so when her powers don't manifest, uh, she obviously feels left out. And when I believe one of her younger siblings or cousins gets their powers, she has a vision of disaster and goes in search of answers. And that's actually where we left off. And it is charming, and they're great little songs. There's a great one of her sisters is super strong and super buff and has this great song about being under the pressure of always having to perform. And it's something that really kind of speaks to, I think, a lot of the pressure that a lot of us have been under during this pandemic. And so I found it really resonated with me. And so I'm without even seeing the end of it. Maybe I can come back next week and let you know whether or not it was good. But I can recommend the first half of Encanto.
And so to clarify, is this Disney or is this Pixar?
This is a Disney film.
Wow.
Yep.
And hit all the right spots for you. You know, what would be truly a miracle is that if Disney Plus would actually work while you're trying to stream. But thanks, DRM.
By the way,
So-
that we don't talk about Bruno was stuck in my head hardcore. We watched that around Christmas time, and I've had it stuck in my head for a long
I
time.
haven't got to that bit yet. So
No
Well,
spoilers.
You do know that it's a tremendously popular song at the moment. It's the most popular song since Let It Go for Disney.
I haven't heard it because I've been under a rock.
Plus, we don't talk about it, so you know.
Yeah. So I should let it go. I understand.
Well, I see what you did there. I probably wouldn't recognize it if I heard it. I have a confession to make, and this is how disconnected I am from the world of the young and especially toddlers. Is I didn't realize that in Ted Lasso, and this goes back to season 1 of Ted Lasso, that the Jamie Tart chant was based on Baby Shark. Because at that
I didn't
point,
know that either.
I had never heard the Baby Shark song before.
What?
Me either.
And I only learned this a few months ago.
I'm learning
It's
this
like-
right now.
Oh my!
Will, why don't you regale us with how it sounds?
Baby shark, da 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 da. Baby shark, da da da
No.
da da. Baby shark,
Okay, that's good.
baby
So just imagine.
shark.
So now
They
it's
play
Jamie
it at
Tart.
sports ball.
Dude.
It's
Yeah. Oh.
there's a baseball team that plays it. It's a whole thing. I couldn't tell you which sports ball team.
It's got to be like
baseball team.
isn't it the Tampa Bay Rays? Wouldn't it be them?
Maybe.
but
I don't know.
I thought it was some random team. It wasn't. It was because there's a whole story behind it. Sorry, this is getting into a whole nother thing. Where the player just wanted it because baseball players have walkout music when they go to hit, and he's like, "I want Baby Shark," so it became a whole thing.
All right.
Nope, but don't like it.
Yep.
What are you, the horse from Ren and Stimpy? No, sir, don't like it
don't
at
like
all.
Good catch. Good catch. So my pick of the week. This is a show that season 3 actually wrapped up a few months ago, but I wanted to share that as another good gray day. Not a Gray Williams day, but gray like the fog we've had for the last day or two here in the lower mainland, Vancouver area. Wintertime and especially gray days, a great time to binge on some TV. And another feel-good pick. I mean, last week we had All Creatures Great and Small. This one is slightly more irreverent, and it's a comedy based on the Taika Waititi movie from a few years back called What We Do in the Shadows. And they made a TV series out of it. And there are 3 seasons in now. And it's a bunch of vampires living on Staten Island. And hilarity ensues. It's basically, like a sitcom with vampires sharing a house, and they have their familiar who really does more than he is ever appreciated for, who turns out, you learn in season 2 a bit more about him. One of the characters in the series is an energy vampire, the bald fellow there. His name is Colin Robinson, who works at an office job and drains people's energy there by he's kind of like an actually guy, and he's the sort of person who shares all sorts of information that you never wanted to know about any given topic. What We Do in the Shadows, the season 1 and 2 are on Disney Plus. Season 3 is on FX in Canada. You can access that if you have a subscription to FX through Shaw or TELUS, I believe. It doesn't seem to be on the FX Now Canada website for some reason. But if you enjoy Taika Waititi, who as an actor makes a cameo at some point, I can't remember which season, but he's an executive producer along with Jermaine Clement from the Flight of the Conchords, another New Zealand TV series, musical TV series. A lot of that same sort of quirky humor here in a bit of a different setting. Would highly encourage folks who enjoy Taika Waititi movies or What We Do in the Shadows, the movie, or even the Flight of the Conchords. If you like that stuff, you'll probably dig What We Do in the Shadows, the TV series. So that is my pick of the week. And we have a couple of projects to share. Our esteemed colleague, the lovely and talented Tasia Custodi, has another YouTube video for us this week. And it is how to use Google Tasks, a complete Google Tasks tutorial for beginners. So for those of you out there in the Google ecosystem, deep into the Google ecosystem, which Tasia most certainly is, and I most certainly am not, aside from occasional use of their search engine and, of course, YouTube, because it's hard to escape those things. But there's lots of great and powerful tools, including Google Tasks. So she gives you the deep dive on there in less than 10 minutes, like most of her videos, which is great. And you can find out more about Tasia at youtube.com/Tasia Custodi or TasiaCustodi.com. And then we finally got yet another video up, a momentous video from Will's and my visit to the BC Boat Show last fall. And this latest video is an interview with the founder of Liquid Metal Marine. So that was a great day back in September, Will. We had a little day trip over to Victoria, and we've almost finished editing and posting those. I think we've got one more after this. And then we'll finally move on to the Vancouver Fall Home Show interviews that we did. It's tough until we're all full time on Momentous, and that's probably going to be, several crypto winnings away, several years worth of crypto profits away. I know Gray's been working on that for us. It can take a while to get these things edited out, but there's lots of fun to shoot and somewhat less fun to edit. But Will's been a trooper there, and we got this one out, so you can check that out at all the different Momentous sites, which we will talk about. You can visit us momentous.tv, facebook.com/momentous.tv, twitter.com/momentous.tv, instagram.com/momentous.tv, and on YouTube, if you want to see the videos, the best way to go for now is search my name, Tristan Jutra, and look for the Momentous playlist there. Not only will you find all 47 episodes, actually minus 3. I think we're missing the first 3 episodes of Momentous Live, but all of our Momentous interviews over the years, from BC Boat Show, past Vancouver International Motorcycle Show, and of course, CES, Consumer Electronics Show, from a few years back. And unfortunately, some of the other events have been postponed, ones we were hoping to get to this spring, but there's some coming up in a couple of months that we hopefully will not get canceled or postponed, and we'll be back out on the road. Team Momentous at it again. Will, Gray, anything to report in the projects department that we didn't happen to be in our rundown?
Yeah, so Minerva's actually announced that they're going to be launching Torch on the Atlo platform.
I understood none of what you just said. Can you decode that for us?
So the wine NFT project that I've been working on,
right?
They're actually going to be offering their token Torch, and it's going to be launching on Atlo. And Atlo itself, as a platform, is launching on January the 28th. So if you are in the Terra ecosystem and you have funds there, you can actually look at acquiring some Atlo, so you can have a stake in the actual platform, and then Torch will be launching on that not too long afterwards, I think.
So I guess the only question that Will and I have is, how can we get rich with this?
Stand by. I'll tell you more after the show.
So they have a Medium page, medium.com/@Minerva_NFT. And then that's the thing with a lot of these crypto projects. You want to make sure you don't end up on a lookalike.
Yes. Yeah. There is a Discord and there's a Twitter as well. And actually what I'll do is I'll put together some links as well as a little bit of information and actually talk about it a little bit more, maybe next week or the week after.
There's a white paper as well.
Yeah.
Good stuff. We will do our homework on that, and we look forward to confusing people further on that topic.
Excellent.
Otherwise, that's it. We did it, guys. Oh, I looked at the clock. I thought we were going to be done by 8, but not quite. You know,
Almost.
we're getting there. We're getting there,
Yeah.
especially when we start on time. For Momentous Live, I am Tristan Jutra.
I'm William Silver.
And I'm Gray Williams.
We hope your week is truly momentous.
Wow.